Hi, I'm Russ Heaps, and welcome to this segment of Beer to Whiskey. In my ongoing quest to spread the gospel of good taste, I find myself today in Durham, North Carolina. I'm here at the Durty Bull Brewing Company. I've got Matt Pennisi here with me, who owns the place and is the general manager. We're going to talk a little bit about beer. We're going to talk a little bit about Durty Bull Brewing Company, and see where it goes from there. Matt, thanks for the invite. It's great being here.
Cheers.
Back at you, Texas Miss Lily. So, tell me a little bit about how you got started, how the brewery got started.
Sure. So I'm originally a home brewer, and I was involved in biotech manufacturing and research in the biotech field. We had gotten pretty into home brewing as a group, and
which seems to be where so much of this starts.
The Durham community is great for home brewing too. And it was a hobby. I was working a 2-2-3 schedule, so I had so many days that I was just off, and it filled in the blanks perfectly.
I'll bet.
And so I had been doing that for several years and kind of decided to make a transition in my career and decided I wanted to be making my own beer. I've been brewing for about 7-8 years at that point, and started working on a business plan while I was still working there. I have a bio background, so it took a long time to write a full business plan and everything, and eventually quit my job in biotech when I was almost done with my business plan. Started to learn beer sales by working at a beer distributor. Wanted to learn the full circle and start working at a wine and beer retail shop after about 1.5 years with the distributor, all while I'm finishing the business plan and finding financing through bank loans and everything, and finally started construction about 2 years ago now, and we've been selling our own beer for about 1.5 years.
Wow. So tell me the name Durty Bull. Was there any reason for that? I know there's, they're the Durham Bulls and
Durham, Bull City, and we're doing a lot of sour beers, a lot of Brett beers. So we're taking the dirty from the bacteria and the yeast that we're using.
And you have you've got a brewer, correct?
Yep.
And his name is
Chris Davis. He started out with Full Steam, and after he helped start Full Steam and worked there for several years before going to Big Boss, and we finally brought him back to Durham. And he's excited to be making a lot of funky and different beers.
Full Steam, for your information, is another Durham brewery that's about 4 blocks from here, 5 blocks from here. They're real close together. So you kind of do some funky beers. Is there a reason for that? Is that what you personally like, or is it some other reason?
That's what I brewed a lot of. I did a lot of Brettanomyces beers and a lot of sour beers, personally home brewing. And there is definitely a hot niche for that available. So we were kind of going to fill that in our local area, and we've been doing great with it, I think, so far.
Your sort of nuts and bolts beer, though, is a lager, correct?
Right, yeah, our Durty Bull lager. It's just a German lager of no particular style, medium hop, medium malt, full flavor though, very easy drinking, and always available year-round in cans. It's our only year-round beer.
Okay.
Our other beers are one-off, pretty much.
And what's the alcohol content of the lager?
5.6%.
All right, so it's an easy drinker.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about this beer.
So yeah, this is 7 days round. It is available in these bottles back here, and it is so we started out with a rye lager that we fermented out, stored cool for a bit, and then transferred to our oak foeders, which are uncharred oak vats, big ones, size of our fermenters. And we aged it in there with Brettanomyces and Lactobacillus to do the souring and the funk for almost 7 months, and makes a perfectly clear rye beer, which is pretty uncommon after that much time. Right.
Yeah.
It's got a really pretty color to it.
It does.
Ruby notes.
It's beautiful, and it's sour enough that you know it's a sour, but it's not an overpowering.
Right, the rye and the wood, the oak, the vanilla really help balance it out. Because we're using new American oak, not whiskey or wine barrels, you're getting a pure vanilla flavor, and Brettanomyces actually eats some of the cellulose, so you extract a lot of little extra flavors from that also.
So would you consider this a seasonal? Is this something that you're going to do next year and the year after and the year after, or?
We kind of brew things more when we want to. It's just going to be, we might make this again, but if something else has our interest at the time, we're constantly making something different. We're always planning a new recipe.
What's your capacity here? How much beer can you actually brew here a year?
We're on a 30-barrel system, so we could probably get up to about 2,000 with our current system, but can easily add more fermenters. But we're far enough under there. We kind of built for growth, so we wouldn't have to be building every year. So we're still growing into our system we've been only selling our beer for a year and a half, and been doing putting a lot of beers into barrels and foeders. We're focused more on aging our beers, while we are still doing IPAs at the same time, cranking those out. We do the IPAs to pay for the sours that we have to age for 6 months.
Sure, right.
Some of our beers we're going to be aging for over 3 years.
I did notice in the back room that you do have some bourbon barrels. Are you guys? Is there something in there, or?
All those barrels are full. Yeah, we have about 45 or 50 barrels all full of beer right now. We just got a cool ship in, which will enable us to capture the wild yeast, basically put the boiling hot sugar water wort out there overnight and let the wild yeast blow over it, and the wild bacteria blow over it, infect it, and we'll put it into wine barrels and probably age it for 2 to 3 years before we release it. And they'll naturally, spontaneously start fermenting from everything in the air.
Wow. Is there something, Matt, that you guys have not made, that have not brewed, that you really are dying to do, or it sounds like you pretty much brew whatever in the heck you want to brew, but
no, but there's so much that we want to brew. Like, that's why we have so many one-offs that we're able to do. I mean, between our brewer had been home brewing for 10 years before he started professionally brewing 8 years ago. He has so many recipes in his back pocket. He was brewing for two recipes. You know, he was brewing the same recipes again and again with his previous breweries. Now it's pull out that notebook, find the best things, and let's let them rip. We wanted to do a really a high gravity Brett beer, a dark Brett beer, almost similar to a Belgian kind of hair of the dog Adam beer. Okay. From up in Portland, and we're currently doing that. We're going to infect it with Brett at the end and let it dry out, so it'll make this, 10%-ish dark, almost a Belgian quad, but with Brett also in the end, and a little bit of wood to boot. So we've been talking about doing a Brettanomyces New England IPA. Hop on it. We already do a few hazy IPAs, but kind of take our little kick on that trend and make something with a little bit of funk on the nose too, in addition to the hops and the fruits. What was a craft beer that really grabbed your attention the first time out? Well, in college, I went to school in Easton, Pennsylvania, where Weyerbacher is. So they introduced me to Belgians and sours. We were right across the border from Jersey, which had a phenomenal import program. So I got a lot of the Belgian sours and really got in them early on through Weyerbacher. How big of an operation you have here in terms of people? We've got about 4 people and 5 or 6 bartenders here, and we run a pretty tight ship, but we have distribution partners. We're available statewide in North Carolina, so that takes that portion away from our plate of actually having to deliver the beer now. That's a recent development. We've only been with them for about a month and a half now. Oh, that is a new development. So we're focus more on making the beer and actually getting out there and educating people on Brett beers and sour beers and how they fit into different restaurant situations and bar situations. So, what are your tap room hours here? Well, we're open 7 days a week. During the weekdays, we're 4 until 9 p.m. On the weekends, we're open until midnight. And Saturday, we're open at noon, and Sunday we open at 1. We're open 1 to 8 on Sunday, noon to midnight on Saturday.
you guys don't appear to be doing much in the way of dark beer. Is there a reason for that?
Well, we've done 2 so far. We've done our Baltic Porter and our Van Gogh Breakfast Stout.
Which sounds delicious to me.
They came out great. Durham just doesn't have the best water for dark beers. You have to add a lot of salts in order to get the pH up to the right brewing chemistry. And because of that, it pretty much takes us twice as long to clean our system because of the excess salts in the system. So it's a lot more work. We'll do them again, but we definitely do them a little more few and far between.
Right.
But we'll experiment here and there with them. They won't ever be our flagships because they're not fun to make.
Sours seem to be the big up-and-coming thing, but there are some brewers and breweries that are a little hesitant to do sours simply because of the potential for infection throughout the system, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think it's in your view, it's more of a bother to do dark beers because of the water than it is sours in terms of keeping the systems clean?
No, I mean, we definitely clean more for our sour beers, but we had more of an initial investment. Well, we just have to clean harder that one time for the dark beer. We've invested into our lab program because of my biology background. We test everything. We test it for ATP levels, which tells you if there's anything growing, and then from there we diagnose. We either clean harder or grow up plates to find out what's growing, but we've never had any cross-contamination issues so far, and we hope to keep it that way, but we spend a lot of time testing and continually cleaning.
Right.
It's just a huge portion of our life, and I'd rather be paranoid about it than get caught with an infection.
Sure.
So a little bit of paranoia is always good in terms of cleaning.
So are you doing collaborations with anybody?
Sure, yeah. We've collaborated with Glass Jug Beer Labs, doing a fun beer. Chris Creech and I, the owner of Glass Jug, had brewed a 25% beer back in our homebrew days. The laws in North Carolina prohibit you going above 15%, so we did an American Strong Ale at 15% called The Law, and also did a Bourbon Barrel version of that, and did it right at 15%. So that was a fun collab. We've also been in talks with other collabs with Wise Man and The Botanist in the Barrel, which is a cider maker. We're going to be using their blackberries in a beer. We're going to use a ton of their blackberries in one of our beers.
Wow, that sounds fun.
Then there's the Van Gogh Breakfast Stout, Joe Van Gogh coffee. We put almost the equivalent of, each pint was almost the equivalent of a cup of coffee. We put so much coffee in that thing. So, yeah.
Well, it's nothing like wide awake drunks. That's what I always say. Well, I just want to say, Matt, it's been fun talking to you, learning a little bit about you, a little bit about the brewery. And with that, cheers.
Hey, cheers. Thanks for coming by.
Tex Miss Lily. Until next time.